Hi flower friends, it's Nicole from Flower Hill Farm, and today we are chatting with Leanne from Coseytown Flowers. Now Coseytown Flowers is a farm located in Pennsylvania. Leanne has been discovering new varieties of dahlias by growing them from seed, and she's been able to basically come up with some very beautiful, gorgeous, never before seen flowers, and they are coming to market this year. She's got a sale coming up in a couple of weeks, so we'll talk more about that later. But I wanted to chat with Leanne because I wanted to, since she focuses on growing dahlias, I wanted to get her advice on how she plants them, how much she waters, how much she fertilizes, and all of those little details. And I wanted to find out what her methods were for growth and how she starts her dahlias from seed. Just a little bit of a background if you guys aren't familiar with the difference between growing a dahlia from a tuber and growing a dahlia from a seed. A dahlia from tuber will grow true to the mother plant. So if you buy a cafe au lait dahlia tuber, it will grow and become a cafe au lait. But if you were to take seeds from that same plant and start those seeds, they will grow to be anything. You never know what they're gonna look like. And believe it or not, the dahlias that grow from seed do create tubers. And if you save those tubers and plant those tubers, they will grow true to the plant, just like any tuber would. All right, that's the background. And now let's chat with Leanne from Coseytown Flowers. Hi, Leanne. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Good. Yeah, I'm so excited to talk about what you have going on. First of all, tell us where you are and what your zone is so that the viewers get a better understanding about that.
Well, I am situated in the Northeast United States, down in South Central Pennsylvania, which kind of lands me into like a zone 6B.
6B, a little jealous. It's the perfect zone in my head. It always has been.
I know.
So
4 seasons, you can't complain.
I know. Tell us about Coseytown and how you got started.
I started like many others, small, and thinking that I was going to be selling cut flowers to local markets. And over that course of time, I had 2 babies and life got a little challenging in good ways, but also like my capacity was limited. So during those times where I was busy with kids, I decided to focus on the things that I like to do the most, which generally the things that kind of get dismissed when you're super busy and trying to make an income. So that's when I really started to start growing dahlias from seed, because every seed is a brand new surprise. And I was really interested in finding dahlia genetics that would work well for cut flowers out in the field. So I just started as an experiment, and 8 years later, here I am.
Oh my goodness. So when you start your year out, how many seeds do you plant?
Last year, I usually try to get around 900 to 1,000 seedlings in the ground.
Wow. And you start them all inside and then plant them outside?
I do about 4 weeks, not that far, not that long. I start them indoors in my basement. I have like a 5-tier shelving unit rack with 50 cell count, 10-20 trays on regulated heat mats. And I begin their germination in my basement because I don't have a greenhouse or really a great outdoor temporary space for seedlings. They need to go directly from my basement, hardened off, and into the field. And I like them to have like 4 to 5 leaf sets and they're good to go. It's 4 weeks from the time they germinate to the time they're outside getting hardened off.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it's nice because I can plant them like the end of May, the first few weeks in June, after I put my irrigation system in, because you need to plan to be ready for young, tender plants out in the field. So I always get my tubers planted first, and then I go back and get my seedlings in.
Oh, that's smart. The one thing I haven't done yet with my dahlias is irrigate them. And that's something that I'm changing this year because I find that if I'm going to be successful with dahlias, they just need to be irrigated.
They do. They do love water after they get started growing.
All right. So talk about some of your favorite varieties that you have, I guess, what's the word when you discover it, or what is the word?
Well, my favorite is always the newest. I mean, yeah. I am human. But for cut flower varieties, I really love plants that function well. And I think this is a little bit of a test you have to do in your own climate. Like plants that work well for me here in the Northeast may not work well for them in the Southeast. So generally, though, there's traits that I like. Peaches and Cream has a lot of traits that I like. the Cornell family, which would include Cornell, which is a red ball, which sported into an orange bronze ball. And then somehow they keep sporting, and varieties like Isabel and Caitlin's Joy. There's another one, another oranger one out in Europe now that's been from that same family. And they're just great, responsive, productive, no fuss plants. So that's what I look for.
So when you say sporting, explain that to someone who's never heard that term before.
Sporting is a genetic mutation of the color and possibly form or petal shape of a dahlia. Typically it's color. It can be stable or unstable, and it is definitely a sport to capture that and get it to be propagated to be consistent.
Oh, so fun. Mm-hmm. When you are planting your seedlings and you're finally seeing what everyone's going to look like, what are the, I guess, out of the 900 that you start, how many of those typically are something that you would like to keep?
My average is, I just added it all up right now. I kept 5% of my 1,000 seedlings this year.
Wow.
Still a lot of plants. I mean, it's like 50 plants.
Wow.
I mean, from there, but at the end of the day, when I'm about to market, I look at that class, that year class, basically, how many did I keep? And it's usually around 2%. Like it continually gets less and less as I evaluate it.
And that's based on a bunch of things, including, you know, how the tubers store and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes Mother Nature makes decisions for me, and it's sad, but I always know I have a new crop coming and something better will come along.
Talk about some of your Coseytown discoveries.
Well, on my website at coseytownflowers.com, you can see past and brand new introductions that are going to be out in the market. There are 9 new ones for 2023. And you can go online and kind of see them. So some of the more popular ones would be Coseytown Gale, Coseytown Baby Cakes. Bermuda Pink is one that I've been showing for many years because I've been propagating it, and it's finally available this year. And that one's special because it was seed from my farm that was purchased by a customer who grew it out, found this great dahlia, shared a tuber back, and I've been able to propagate it since to bring it to market.
Wow, that's an awesome story. I love that one. I actually think that's my favorite one on your whole website. That's my favorite.
It is.
I'm going to have to be on your website because you do have an upcoming sale, correct?
It'll be February 18th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
I'll make sure to put that in the description of this video. How do you plant yours? Do you do a certain spacing traditionally every time, or do you kind of play around with it? And what have you landed on so far?
What I've landed on, which works best for my operation, is I have 4-foot aisles that run east to west, and I plant in an 18-inch swath of ground. And in that 18-inch swath, I plant 2 rows, and the dahlias are about 12 inches apart as I go down. So I can fit about 100 plants in a 50-foot row. And there's one line of irrigation, drip irrigation, that go down the row.
Right down the middle. Oh, okay. That's what I'll have to do. Do you use drip tape?
I do. And it's all about water pressure and making sure your pressure's up and you have enough volume of water running through. So the one tape, and I use every 6 inches, it's the 6-inch tape, will emit droplets of water. And that is enough to give me about 12 or 14 inches of moisture after it's run for about 3 hours.
Oh, nice. What has been your favorite part of this whole adventure?
The surprise.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't cost money to get started. I mean, the first time I collected seeds was actually at my sister Kate's house, helping her clean her fields. And I was explaining to her, wow, dahlias are so interesting as a genetic study because they have 64 chromosomes and the seedlings never look like the parents most of the time.
Yeah.
And so I rummaged through her big pile of stalks that we cut off before we dig tubers and found a couple seed pods. And that's what I started with. In fact, here's a story. The first seedling I ever grew that ever bloomed is actually in my 2023 sale. Ooh. And I've always just called it First Bloom. I couldn't think of a better marketing name, but that was the one that kind of captivated me. And I've never been the same since.
It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. My friend Lila, that's her favorite one. We keep browsing.
Success can happen on your first try. And I love that.
I did 2 years ago, I just did 50 seedlings, just 50 seedlings. And I had one that was amazing. And the tuber rotted. I was bummed, but that just gives me hope that maybe I'll try it again.
Promise me you'll try it again. It's so
I will. I do have a lot of dahlia seed left over. Oh, so what is the way that you store them? Do you have a method that you use that you've landed on once again?
Well, I failed the first 3 times, and then I found a real legit root cellar, and I used that for many years. But now I've upgraded to a CoolBot cooler system,
Yep.
and I'm able to regulate the temperature and humidity. So I like it around 40 degrees and about 80% humidity.
Okay.
Now, the humidity is kind of important. Even with my system, I do have to go and check regularly to make sure it doesn't go too high. I generally don't have a problem with it going too low, but too high ends up having a lot of fungal issues with cold storage.
Yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with dahlias. I've had one really, really successful year and then 2 not great years. So I'm giving them another go this year. I definitely am. I have some new varieties coming in. But I just think that a lot of it's user error on my part because I was relying so heavily on Mother Nature to provide the water.
Yes.
And I was growing on such a large scale, and I have a well here. I couldn't effectively water when they needed to be watered. So that was a bummer because when there's no rain, I don't have any water in my well. So it was user error on my part, but we're doing things this year to fix that. And I will give dahlias another try.
What I like about my growing situation, I use the black woven ground cover as my aisles, and it keeps the weeds down. And like I said, I only have about 18 inches of exposed ground. About mid-July moving forward, the dahlias are large enough to shade out that area, which means I don't usually have a weed problem. And 2, it kind of keeps my water where it belongs.
Yeah, that's really good.
Weeds or other plants kind of competing for that resource, and then the sun's not evaporating it as quickly. Over the last couple 100 years, they've really been bred and hybridized to meet specific standards. And so you don't see the fun and the quirky, which I also enjoy. So it's nice.
Yeah, there's some open face varieties that are typically not saved, but they're beautiful.
Color combinations, typically the most vibrant pigmented flowers are the ones to make it to market. But I have one called Coseytown Mason, which is a very subdued hue of red that hasn't been available before. And I don't know, for the cut flower market, I can see it being very popular.
You said you wanted to touch upon the qualities that you look for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting if you were to go out and try to find cut flower varieties of dahlias, that definition is pretty vague. Someone might just say makes a good cut, or it'll be labeled cut flower variety, but what does that mean? And that's the struggle that I found when I was first growing dahlias and wanted specific type of plants. And spoiler alert, I'm a farm kid, so I grew up with knowing that there are certain plants for certain purposes. And I took that mindset into looking for what I wanted and couldn't find it. So over the last decade, I've really come to identify 9 traits that are important to me. And they're the traits in which I really gauge all my seedlings on. And it starts from the ground up. So it's important for me that a plant can be useful for multiple years, and its longevity is based in the tubers for a dahlia. So there's 2 points. I like to make sure that they're dahlias that are easy to store, and easy to store is based on having ideal conditions, a root cellar type or a cooler that a farmer might have on their farm already. So that 40 degrees, 80% humidity, if they do good with that, I am happy. So the other one is productivity of tubers. I like, because I sell them, that's my main business. And I like to have a certain quality when I send it out. So I call them number 1. So on average, I like to see my plants have at least 5 number 1 tubers that are saleable. Typically, there's many more, but damage can occur during harvest, or some shriveling could happen from year to year. And there's always some sort of issue, but that's my average I like to keep. And I look for that in my seedlings. A couple other things would be the growth habit. So I like the upright, strong, vigorous plants. So I do use supports in my field to keep them because I grow in rows, but I don't want to have a weak plant that wants to fall over all the time. I like to see it mostly take care of itself. Stem length would be another one. It kind of goes hand in hand with the the plant habit, but you can have shorter plants that have nice tall stems that bloom above the leaf canopy. So they don't have to be super tall as long as they have enough stem length for the customers. There's another one with stem strength. It's really tough when you pick a dahlia and you move it to a bucket and it's really floppy. My litmus test, because I had young kids, is if a 3-year-old can handle it. That's kind of my dahlia. I made a list here so I didn't forget anything. Yeah. Bloom productivity is something I look after like year after year. It takes multiple seasons of evaluation to really get a good gauge. Years can be different with growing. You've seen that yourself. But I really ask myself, because there's so many things or variables for bloom productivity, but I monitor how the plant does under stress, under pest pressure, under lack of water, under heat. Like, how does it respond? And it could have an off year, but in general, is it going to make enough blooms to make a farmer profitable, or make that gardener happy so they have enough to share with anyone they want? The bloom position is pretty important. If it's a top-facing bloom or a forward-facing bloom, if it's downward, it's an immediate call. I don't care how pretty it is. It's immediately gone from any selection process. Yeah. As well as the blossom attachment. I have a huge issue with bobble-headed dahlias. Like, to go through the whole process of growing a dahlia only for the blossom to pop off during harvest or during handling.
I have a couple tulips that are like that, like year after year, the same one just goes beep. I'm like, I'm not buying that anymore.
I mean, I'm not the gentlest person. Like, I am efficient in the field. It's got to be cut and in a bucket.
For research.
Yeah. So if they can survive my hands, I feel like they have a good chance at life. And then vase life would be the last one. And it's basically, can it last at least 5 days after it leaves the farm? And I know that some dahlias can last longer. And I know dahlias, especially the larger ones, don't even meet that. They're more event type flowers. And I try to make that clear in my descriptions of my plants. And to be fair, there's very few that meet the top marks on all 9. There's got to be some compromise somewhere. But if it's labeled as a Coseytown cut flower, they're the traits that I'm looking for. And they at least are meeting expectations, if not excelling.
Very good traits to look for.
I know that was a really long-winded answer, but I'm pretty passionate about that.
No, I love all the information. And while you were talking, I came up with 2 questions too. And I'm guessing, do you pinch yours?
I do, every single one. Even seedlings, I treat them just like my field plants. Okay.
And what do you use for fertilizer?
I have landed on, if I can get a hold of it, fertilizer is difficult because if you're growing in any amount, you really have to source it locally because shipping it in is quite expensive. But I've been able to source an Osmocote extended release pelleted fertilizer with micronutrients.
I'm so glad you said that, because the previous owner of my house left some fertilizer in the basement, and it was a pelleted Osmocote, and I sprinkled it on just 5 or 6 of my dahlias, and those dahlias were twice the size of anything else in my field that I was just spraying with a foliar fertilizer. They really were.
They time release fertilizers can come in a couple different compounds. It's like I don't know what kind of coating it is, but it's made in a way to break down over time. They have 2 to 3 month time release fertilizers. There's a 4 to 5 month. So that should be the length of time it's useful. I use a 4 to 5 month one. And dahlias are very sensitive to micronutrients, especially if they're out of balance. Like on the East Coast, generally our ground is deficient in boron. And so I will see boron deficiency. Not anymore. I got my field where it needs to be. Oh, good. But you want your pH to be around 6.5. That's a good range for a lot of the nutrients to be available to any plant. And then making sure you have enough water so the nutrients that are in the soil actually can make it to your plants.
Guilty.
So, yeah.
The one year I had really great success with dahlias, we had an abundance of rain that year.
Mm-hmm.
So it was clear that that was my problem. Do you bag your dahlias, or do you kind of let what happens when it comes to pests?
I have really, over the last 5 years, transitioned my pest management to using a lot of biological pollinator friendly stuff. A lot of that is preemptive use. Knock on wood, don't wish me any harm, but I think I have my Japanese beetle population at least managed.
Great.
And that's been year after year of using milky spore on areas of my lawn that it looks like grubs are eating.
Mm-hmm.
So I generally at this point now only apply milky spore in the fall on my lawn where it looks like it's a little rough or spotty. And that's just an indication of some sort of grub damage. So I've been 3 years with a minimal level, but I also plant my dahlias by color, and darker colors generally aren't bothered by those types of beetle pests. So if I do have to manage or spray something, I can be kind of specific on where I apply some of those products.
I found the whites to be the most attractive to bugs. Definitely.
I do have to bag sometime, and bagging means using those organza bags. I use the 12-inch size, get them off of Amazon. Last year, I didn't bother with it. I was able to harvest what I needed. And a few that were bothered, they were just composted.
Yeah, very good. So how many years on average does it take you to go from the discovery to available to the public?
Mm-hmm. That can shift. Generally, I love at least 3 years of evaluation. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's up to 5. And at this point, with the number of seedlings I have coming in, they can be longer. I kind of hold them off, but generally I wait until I have a certain amount of consistency and I'm confident with the plant's going to be performing for the customer like it does in my field. And I like to have a minimum tuber count before I launch it, just to try to make it as widely as available as I can. Mm-hmm. And that can be anywhere between 4 and 6 years on average.
Yeah. And I mean, if people want these tubers, they're going to have to get on when it opens up, because you traditionally do sell out.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm changing. Dahlia sales are almost a sport these days. They're in high demand. And I'm so happy that people are looking to American farmers to find their supply of what they want. I mean, I just love it as a person who grew up in agriculture. But I also position myself to have items that are uncommon. And there's my own brand. So yeah, things sell out. But I have changed something this year. And moving forward, we're going to use this dream cart system that we use. So if you're going to be at my sale, know that you can preload your cart, sign into your account, and check out when the sale opens. And hopefully this alleviates the stress of running around and trying to load a cart up. We hope that it eliminates you having to go back and forth or having multiple orders. So you can really just ask for what you want and hopefully get it in fewer clicks.
Wow, that's amazing.
I know I can't solve all the problems, but we hope this part helps.
I can't even, like, you're add to cart and then go back, see what's available, add to cart. And by the time you get to check out, half the stuff that's in your cart is no longer available. So yes, that will definitely be something that a lot of customers will be looking forward to.
I know people forget that I'm also a Dahlia customer. I am also in line with them. So I feel it.
What are your favorites to grow?
A lot of them now are my own varieties. I've gotten to the point where most of my field, about 70%, are Coseytown varieties in some level or phase of propagation. Currently, some of my favorites that are on the market right now are Coseytown Goodnight, just because it's one of those plants that hits every single point that I talked about just a few minutes ago. Great tubers, great storing, great stems, great plant. And it's just a really profitable plant, especially in the fall, because it doesn't degrade with lack of sunlight, or how the sunlight diminishes in the fall, less hours per day, and the cool nights. Sometimes that can cause plants to blow open, but this stays pristine until frost.
I'm on your website right now looking at it. I always do a video every year called I Dream of Dahlias, and I was gonna do a video this year called I'm Divorcing Dahlias, but I've changed my mind and I'm moving forward. Oh my gosh, these are just so beautiful. I'm so excited.
Well, just come talk to me. I'll work you through the worst of it. You know, just always want to encourage people to try. Dahlias is one of those plants that sometimes you don't get right the first year, and I also experienced that, but there's a dahlia for everyone. They're so diverse that I really encourage people to give them a try, whether it's from tubers or cuttings or seeds. It's worthwhile in the end.
I agree. I'm coming back to them. Well, thank you so much, Leanne. I look forward to shopping at your sale and getting some of these never before seen varieties. And I think a lot of people are going to be in the same boat with me.
Thank you and good luck.
Thank you. I could probably chat with Leanne all day. There's something so soothing about her voice. We could chat for hours about dahlias. I am so excited about her upcoming sale. I'm hoping to snag a couple of those varieties. Ooh, that corally, first bloom, and that Bermuda pink. It's got, I just love that tone of pink, and it's something I've never seen before. So as you heard in the video, I'm not divorcing dahlias just yet. I am going to be remedying my situation by using drip irrigation. And hopefully that will mean I'll have another productive dahlia year. And I'm gonna try some dahlia varieties from seed. I'm gonna see what happens, because that one that I grew 2 years ago from seed that was so gorgeous, I'm so upset that I lost those tubers. That was really a bummer, because that was just awesome looking. I'll be filming another video all about the dahlias that I'm growing here at the farm very soon, and I will bring you my 4th edition of I Dream of Dahlias coming up probably later this month when my grandfather is on his way, and we are going to be doing some more seed starting. So I'll bring you guys that in another video. We'll see you soon. It's freezing. It's 19 degrees now, but it was -2 here this morning. Yeah, and what are you guys going to get on Friday and Saturday? We're -20, 22.
We're gonna still stay in the teens as far as I know. Like, I feel like I live in the perfect spot. I used to live in northern Pennsylvania, used to live in Michigan, and I feel like I live in the tropics down here.
Yeah. Oh, I'm jealous. Yeah, you're in the teens and I'm in the -20 somethings.
No thanks.
I would take the teens. It's 19 right now, but the sun is kind of out, so it feels nice. It's Nicole from Flower Hill Charm. Flower Hill Charm. You got that Flower Hill charm.